She seeks to end gender-based violence, a vice that has and continues to take up many lives, especially those of women.
I was born in Nairobi, went to school here, brought up here, got married here. Chances are I might die here. My dad is a teacher. I was born and raised by a single dad. We used to live in a council estate called Kariobangi South Flats. And then in Form 2 or so, my dad got a job at SOS, so we moved there in Buruburu. But generally, yeah, my dad supported me all through. He made sure I went back to school. He made sure I went to college. My dad has been my biggest support team. I got into a marriage when I was pretty young because I was so ashamed, getting pregnant early and everything. And I ran away, got married. My dad was like, you have to finish school in spite of everything else. And I did. We were really young. I mean, at least me. He was also young, pretty much. We had no business getting married. We were kids trying. Unajua, what we Kenyans used to say, kupika kalungu. But now you don't realize you're adults and you're supposed to negotiate. And so I got myself into, the marriage became abusive. And yeah, I left with 2 kids. And I'm here today. And part of the reason I do this, one of the things about USIKIMYE is we are survivor-led. So we put survivors in the forefront because I am a survivor. And as such, I tend to make decisions based on also understanding the model of the people who have gone through the kind of violence we have gone through. Very much survivor-centered, very much trauma-informed, very much community-led. We focus on what the community wants, and then we see how that works together with our programming. My dad, as I said, my dad was a teacher, and my dad was this person that our house had an open door policy, like relatives, friends. My dad was not the kind of person who believed in with you withholding. You know that nice dress that he bought you like a week ago, and then there's somebody who needs it. He will tell you, NJERI, that dress, give it out. We have an opportunity to get you another dress, but this person may never get that opportunity. So I learned not to get attached to things, and I also learned how to give. I tell people all the time I am because of how I was raised. I was raised with kindness. I was raised with you give, you don't withhold. In fact, the other day I was talking to my dad and he was telling me one of the things where people are angry and people are frustrated and sometimes people don't even get is because we live with a tight fist. A tight fist can't receive either. You're tight fisted like this. He told me, how do you give somebody whose fist is like this? And I was like, okay, that's an analogy I'll be using. Tight fist like this. He told me, always have an open palm. An open palm means things are never attached. So that's how I've grown up. I've grown up with kindness. I also grew up in a home where it was just me and my dad. So there were no those stereotypical gender roles. My dad cooked, my dad washed. I mean, I started living with him when I was 3. So not started living with him, I've always lived with him. But generally, my mom wasn't present from when I was 3, so it was just the 2 of us. So that also taught me that everything, sometimes I look at people arguing about roles, and I'm like, my dad was left with a 3-year-old girl. In the 80s, that is unheard of, right? In the 80s, where did you see an unmarried man with a little girl? But he raised me. So every time I see people deadbeating or I see people shacking away from being parents, I'm always like, but my dad raised me. He could have taken me to his mom. That opportunity was there. My grandmother was in my life. He could have taken me there and left me there for her to raise me, but he didn't. And remember, that was an argument in the family. This is a girl. Leave her to us, we raise her. My dad was like, this is my responsibility. I'm going to raise her. Yeah, so that fundamentally, that is how I see my life. Yeah.
As a survivor of gender-based violence, NJERI MIGWI delights in helping others through the USIKIMYE organization, where she is a co-founder.
And USIKIMYE actually began because in 2019, there was a killing of a doctor in Eldoret. Her name was Dr. Ivy Wangashi. That story is very personal to me because that was the first time I actually saw people react to a murder the way they did. And I think that was very shocking to me, that the absurdity of victim blaming and the absurdity of creating memes, and going around talking about katashoka. I think I've never been so horrified by something like that. And previously, before that, I was doing something from 2016 called Survivors Anonymous, where I thought, as part of the process, because I did leave my marriage, and part of the process is I was seeking healing and through therapy and so on. And I was like, time to give back. So I used to have this meeting with a therapist and this group of women. And so I'd been doing that for a while. And so I reached out to my co-founder, they're called Stella, and we talked and we were like, have you ever seen anything like this? So we're like, what if we educated people? I said, as a survivor, what if I educated people on what gender-based violence is? So we thought to start an education forum.
USIKIMYE, or rather Don't Be Silent, is a rescue and care center that provides a safe haven for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence is wide and vast, and that's the thing. So many things are encompassed again around gender-based violence, and I would want people to understand that gender-based violence is not just women. Gender is so many things. It's diverse genders. We have diverse genders: women, men, intersex, and other genders. But now, it's the violence that we face. Most people, when they think of gender-based violence, they think about intimate or domestic violence, where it's a man and a woman in a house. But gender-based violence is more than that. It encompasses female genital mutilation. It encompasses forced and early marriages. It encompasses rape, defilement, molestation, and so many other things. We're looking at financial violence. We're looking at psychological violence, all that violence that is based on interpersonal relationships. That is what we are working against. This program is actually related to GBV. We carry this program as a result of, trying to prevent or support. So we have a livelihood program, which is in Mama Chama, where we bring 400 women together. Every Saturday, we meet at the social hall where we train these women, equip them with financial literacy. They're able to borrow, save and lend within their means. Yeah, so we've trained them. They're able to access loans and things around that. So that's amazing. Other than that, we also train them in skills: baking, briquette making, soap making, so they can be able to open small businesses and do the work. And even when you're opening a small business, we always assume people know. They don't. And sometimes you also underestimate the power of literacy or the power of knowing how to run a business. So we train them. If you buy one big watermelon and divide it into, 15 pieces, you bought it at 300, these 15 pieces you're selling at 20 shillings, so you get 600. 300 goes back to capital, 300 is your profits. So, those things, that make sense. Microeconomics, because here we live on, if there's something smaller than micro, that's where we are, so yeah. So that's part of it. Livelihood. We also do a lot of I need you to understand that a lot of these communities, people have so much unresolved trauma. You can't come to them and tell them you have trauma. Okay, so what we do is we destigmatize mental health. We have a curriculum which we have done. It speaks in the language of mtaa, right? We give them a story of what it is. Ni nini kimetokea kwa Dorcas? Ni nani wa kulaumiwa? You see, it's not in English. It's in Swahili and Sheng. Yeah? Because it is in a language in which they understand. And even when we do it in English, we break it down. Why is this important? Because people here need to be able to identify stressors. When you ask them, they will tell you stress ni ya watu wanauko, si ya watu wa mtaa, hiyo ni ya watu wako na pesa. But then when you look at somebody, they are so oppressed, but they don't see it. So what we've been doing is, a lot of times when you see women go through difficult situations, they look for certain women. So those women, we've been taking them and training them as mentors. So now, when somebody's coming to tell you their issues, you're able to help them, and then you're able to direct them to where they can get further help. And you're also able to distress, because all you're doing is absorbing. Mama fulani alikuja akakwambia alichapwa jana, mama fulani alikwambia leo na mtoto amerushwa. All these things. So they are able to understand and able to see and to gauge for themselves how that looks like. So we run that. It's called Uzima. It's a program we do for destigmatizing mental health in informal areas. A child was eaten is a happy child. So we avoid children, and we have seen cases of molestation really go down.
Migwi is on the battle forefront against a silent epidemic of gender-based violence in Kenya, where many women have fallen prey.
As in, if I tell you what happened on Monday here, is that we received a case of a murder. Okay, that started on Saturday because a child was reported missing here in Kayole. And so, of course, the search was mounted and everything that Saturday evening, because that's when she disappeared. She was playing outside, 9-year-old, beautiful girl, Marcel. She disappeared, and then, on Sunday morning, her body was found. It had been, she had been defiled, dumped. Defiled, killed, and, her body had been dumped. And so, yeah, so those are that's femicide. Those are some of the cases we handle. And you find that that was reported here. And so we had to help the parents navigate the police, go to the mortuary, attend the postmortem, all that. It's part of some of the things we see as an office. So that was Monday. The thing with most parents, they assume boys are safe. The thing with most predators, because now they're not able to access, because maybe the girls, now they go for the boys. Because let me make people understand, rape is not a crime of passion. I need you to understand that rape has never and will never be a crime of passion. Rape is a crime of opportunity and power. It is the taking away of the power from somebody that the person derives pleasure from. So once you understand the dynamics of rape, then you get to understand why people rape children. Because they're powerless. And it's easier to threaten a child to keep quiet. So that's the perversion about it. It's never a crime of passion. Never be lied to. That's why it's always very funny when you hear people say why there are women who are selling themselves. They don't want them. They want that helplessness. That feeling of helplessness is what they derive their power from, or their satisfaction from. So once you understand that, then you're able to understand the motive. Yeah, that's why you're able to understand why somebody rapes, because they derive the joy from seeing your helplessness. So, yes, even the boys are not safe. I can give you an example because it's public knowledge now. We were in Moranga sometimes last week, where a boy, I'm the one who rescued that boy, took him to hospital. He had been defiled by, allegedly, let me use the word allegedly, by a neighbor who happens to be a gospel musician of sorts. And he did. And actually, now he defiled both a girl and a boy in that homestead. How did we know? The boy, he told them he'll kill them. So that's how you normally silence children, by either threatening you'll kill their mother or the children themselves. So the children didn't see. But see, for the mom, she could observe the way the son was walking wasn't normal. So she told somebody who called us. So when we went, by that time, the boy was really in so much pain. He couldn't even, he actually had to have surgery. So those are instances. We have received a few cases here last week as well. Actually, last week, all the cases we had were boys.
Gender-based violence is one of the most global prevalent human rights violations, and it knows no social, economic, or national boundaries. It undermines the health, dignity, security, and sovereignty of survivors, and it remains masked in a culture of silence, supported by cultural beliefs and values that sustain, justify, or dismiss it as an ordinary component of male-female relationships.
Tarehe 15 mwezi wa 8, 2021. Nilikuwa tu nashughulika na kazi yangu ya kawaida. Mimi wanauza njugu karanga, snacks, pipes, za watoto tamtamu. So niliweza kukutana na mtu, akanisalimia habari yako mama, nikamwambia mzuri. Akaniambia anatafuta mtu wa kufua manguo. Akaniuliza unafuanga manguo? Nikamwambia Akaninaendanga hata umoja. So akaniambia bibi yake ni mgonjwa wako kwa nyumba. Anahitaji mtu wa kufua manguo. Ilikuwa around 6:30 kielekea saa 1. So Akaniambia tuende anipeleke kwa bibi yake ndio kesho yake niraukie kufua. Tusingefua hizo masaa. So tukaenda, tukaambatana na yeye, alinipeleka 4th floor huku Soweto. Na hiyo wakati nipeleka 4th floor, tukaenda tukapata nyumba alikuwa tu amerudisha but hajaweka chapi. So aliweza kunirusha huko ndani. Nikaanguka huko ndani, hakuwa na kitanda, hakuwa na meza. So wakati alinirusha niliangukia tu mattress. Hapo akarudi akafunga mlango, akatoa manguo zake zote, akaanza kunipiga kwanza akiwa uchi. Kanipiga sawa sawa. Akarudi akanitoa manguo sasa. Akaanza kunirepu. Sasa wakati nilikuwa napiga nduru ananiambia usijaribu kupiga nduru. Nitakuua. Hii nyumba nimeua wanawake wawili, Susi na Sara, who are you? Akaendelea kunirepu. Wakati alinirepu raundi 2, baadaye nirudi nikang'ang'ana, nikatoka nje. Nikafungua nikatoka nje hapo kwa corridor. Akanishika hapa kwa shingo, akaanza kuninyonga. Sasa ninapiga nduru na ananinyonga. Majirani 4 wakatoka, wanaume 3 na mwanamke mmoja. Wakamuuliza ni nini mbaya na wewe? Akawadanganya nimemuibia. Nikamuuliza nimekuibia nini na niko uchi? Si useme chenye nimekuibia mahali nimeweka kozi niko uchi. Akainsist nimemuibia. So majirani zake wakarudi. Wakati walirudi akanirudisha tena kwa ile nyumba. Akaanza kuniforce nivute bangi. Na hii dawa ya kulevya hii inaitwa kubeli wanawekanga hapa kwa mdomo. Mimi nikamwambia hizo vitu situmiangi. Akashika hii mkono akaitwist kabisa nikapiga nduru. Akaniambia nitakuua. Akaendelea kunirepu mpaka asubuhi. Asubuhi ilipofika akaniambia amuka uende. Nikaamuka. Akaniambia na huwezi toka kwa hii nyumba yangu kama hujaosha hii nyumba na upange venye ulipata ikiwa. Kwa sababu tumekuwa tukigangana na wewe, kila kitu hapa iko kando kando. Hizo sasa kina masahani na masufuria hizo. So akaniambia lazima upange hii nyumba na uoshe. Akanisimamia kwa mlango. Ameshika chupa. Ananiambia anaweza kuniweka huku chini kwa upande uzazi. So mimi nikaogopa, nikaosha tu nyumba. Haya, nikapanga hizo vitu zake hapo. Akaniambia toka uende. Mimi nikatoka. Sasa ni kesho yake. Ilikuwa tarehe 16 kesho yake. Ilikuwa siku ya Monday. Kwa sababu hiyo date 15 ilikuwa ya Sunday yenye alinirepu. So nikaenda moja kwa moja mpaka police station ya Soweto. Kwenda Soweto wakanituma Mama Lucy. Kulingana na vile nilikuwa nimepigwa nikajisikia siwezi fika Mama Lucy. Nikaenda kuna hospitali iko hapa Uhuru alifunguanga inajiita level 2 hapa tu Shosho. Hapa tu Soweto Shosho. Nikaenda hapo ndio sasa wakaniitishia ambulance kutoka Mama Lucy ikakuja ikanipeleka Mama Lucy. So USIKIMYE imenisaidia mambo mingi. Hizi chama tunafanya imenisaidia sana, mambo mingi sana. Kwa sababu kama si USIKIMYE, huyo mtu hata angekuwa tu raia. So tukawa tunaendelea hivyo, akawekwa ndani.
Many are the effects related to this vice, as it not only affects the physical health but also mental health and may lead to self-harm, isolation, depression, and suicidal attempts.
Imagine there's a naked woman crawling in the corridor, screaming for help. Why would I believe anything else other than that woman? That's what I'm saying, we're losing our utu. Because there's a naked woman screaming and saying she's being raped. Why would you believe your neighbor? Wouldn't you be like, something is off? Wouldn't the first instinct be, let us listen to, even if you want to hear the other side of this, because people have, I want to listen to the other side of the story. What other side of the story when there's a screaming woman who's been beaten also? That should have been the warning, the signs that something is wrong. Sometimes I want to defend the police, but sometimes you don't know how to defend them. You Kenyans, you know how our police are. I don't need to elaborate, I still need to work with them. But I wish and I hope and I pray that we will change our attitudes about survivors. That's the only thing I can say. Can we change the attitude we have around survivors? Survivors of gender-based violence, believe survivors. Listen to survivors. They are the ones who know their story. Don't start. I hear the first thing that you hear. I tell you I got raped, but the first thing you want to debunk is, where were you? What were you dressed? What were you doing? Excuse me? Why is it the first instinct is to first silence the voice? Why? Because you're not comfortable? It doesn't make sense to you? It doesn't have to make sense to you. You just have to listen. And I think that's where we're losing the plot. We don't listen.
There are so many cases that we deal with. We have domestic violence cases, we have negligence cases. This is in regards to children. We have rape cases, sodomy cases, which have become very rampant. We have cases of murder threats, cases of murder. Yes, so those are some physical assaults.
Although Migwi is not able to help as many women as she would, she draws inspiration from seeing some of them reclaim their voice, start a new life, and find their independence.
Honestly, I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud that a child didn't sleep hungry. That for me is a big achievement. I'm proud today that there are kids who will go home. If there is no meal at home, they will not sleep hungry. That for me is a major achievement. I'm proud that there's a woman who is finding her independence and her freedom. And I am proud that there is a man who has sat in this office and been offered help, how to get his child back, how especially men when they're raped, they really do not know what to do with themselves. And I am glad we have had them and sat with them. We have a small safe room here where we keep men. And he's gone through what he needed to go through. And we've encouraged him and he's been able to start over. How many women are able to have small businesses, are able to have financial freedom because people like us exist? Those are the whys. People dream of being big brands. I dream of having impacted much more lives, having people not have gender-based violence. What if we could really, even if it's not zero rating it, what if it could go lower? That's my vision as USIKIMYE. What if we could have less people? I want to train more champions. I want to have people like NJERI. Many more NJERIs out there doing what we do. Because together, I believe, you and I can end gender-based violence. It's our responsibility.
So ningependa kusema kwa NJERI, Mungu tu ndio atamlipa, si mwanadamu. Amefanya kazi mzuri kwa sababu kupitia kwake huyo gaidi ako ndani. Unaona, angeshikwa hivi na amejitolea. Wakili ndio huyo, wao ndio wanashughulika. So sina cha kumlipa, ni kumwambia tu akae na hiyo roho na Mungu ndio atamlipa.
Kulingana na hii USIKIMYE, kwa upande wangu kama mimi imenisaidia kwa mambo mengi, na imenisaidia sio tu wamenisaidia upande wa chakula. Mara mingi wamekuwa wakinisaidia, hata familia yangu wanaisaidia juu nikikuja ukinipea naenda nasaidika na watoto wangu. Alafu kama tumesaidika hata kupitia kwa hizi vikundi, tuko na vikundi karibu wamama karibu 100. Huwa tunakutananga Saturday. Tunakutananga tu mara moja pale social hall. Kila Saturday tunaenda saa 3 tunakuwa tuko hapo. Tunaongea yetu vile tunafanya, mtu ana save kila ako naye. Kama wewe ni wa kukopa unakopa, unaenda unasaidikia mali juu. Hata mimi hiyo imenisaidia sababu biashara yangu ilikuwa chini sana. Sasa nilipochukua kiasi nikaenda nikaongezea, naona sasa biashara at least imeinuka. Ni shida tu ni vile saa zingine mwili inaniletea shida. Sasa inakuwa saa zingine kufungua inakuwa ngumu, lakini imenisaidia.
In helping others, Migwi not only finds healing but satisfaction as well.
Kenyan public has been our biggest supporter from when we started. When we have a case and we tell them, hey guys, I need fuel, I need ABCD, Kenyan people give. Kenyan people come here with food, they give. Clothes, they give. So before I thank any other person, I want to thank the Kenyan public for trusting us and believing in us and believing in our work. They are so fundamental to what we do. They are the reason and the cause, right? So those are the people I would want to thank. And of course, I would want to thank our partners who we partner with, Oxfam, Majorly Praveen Chauhan, fantastic person. He's made our feeding program keep on going. He makes sure we get food when we don't have food. And like, there's so many people. This is, USIKIMYE is not ours. USIKIMYE is Kenyan.
I'd describe NJERI as someone who is concerned about women and children and humanity in general. Someone who is really passionate about the safety of human beings and their fights being fought for. She's someone who is very kind-hearted, who is concerned about the well-being of people, especially those who are not getting the justice.
Mi ningependa kumwambia tu shukran, sababu amenibeba kama mimi ni dada yake, kama mimi mtoto wake, na ninashukuru sababu mali popote akinipata si mtu wa kujipenda, na mimi huwa nafurahia juu ananichukua kama mtu kawaida kama wale wengine, aangalie ile udhaifu niko nayo, hata wakiwa pamoja na Ruthi, hata wasichana hawa wenye anafanya na wao, nikikuja hapa wananipokea vizuri, hakuna mtu ashanifanyia madharau.
If you are raped, because I feel like this is something I get asked a lot of times, because most people don't know, and this is so important. If you are raped, do not take a shower. Please do not take a shower. Wrap the clothes you have in a newspaper or in a non-plastic thing, put them in there. I know the urge to shower is heavy because you feel, soiled and dirty, but do not take a shower. That is evidence. Please go to the nearest hospital, government hospital. All right? Government. And I'll emphasize government hospital. Because if you want this to be prosecuted, it cannot be a private practice. It has to be a government hospital. Please, within 72 hours. Tafadhali. That goes for anybody who has been raped. All right? That is how we get evidence. The only way we get evidence is if evidence is presented. And that way we can successfully prosecute cases and make sure that rapists remain behind bars. Other than that, together, you and I can end gender-based violence.